My name is Rory. I oversee business development for WheelHouse IT. I'm going to be your single point of contact for all things TCG, and then through there I'll sort of designate where things need to go accordingly. In the room, we also have Dan Quintero. He oversees all of our new client experience. So between the two of us, TCG is in really good hands. I was originally going to do this presentation, but then I decided that Ghani, our CEO and the founder of the company, should be able to really speak with the heart and from the passion. So with that, I'm going to give you Ghani, and then he'll run through this presentation with you.
So why managed IT services with WheelHouse is a great choice. Okay, so what's the name of the company? 365 Data Centers talked about this a little bit. They do a little bit of managed services. Managed services is kind of a word that people are throwing around a lot. You got telecom companies are talking about it. Data centers are talking about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to explain how we do managed services and what managed services means to us. It's this ubiquitous word. So I'm going to go through that a little bit. But first, let's see. That's not working. I'll go through the slide. Okay, so a little bit about WheelHouse IT first. So we've been in business for over 20 years. Largest managed service provider in South Florida in terms of staff size. Again, we don't go around like count the heads of all the employees, but according to LinkedIn, from what we know, I think the second largest to us is about 30 people. But we're a local company. We have an office in New York, an office in LA, but our headquarters is down here. And from what we know, we're the largest. So we're also in the top 100 managed service providers in the country, which is done through a company called MSP Mentor that basically ranks all the MSPs. So we're a top 100 managed service provider. We have a physically staffed office in New York and LA, but our headquarters is actually right here in Fort Lauderdale. We have 55 plus full-time employees. Almost everybody in our company is technical. So we have over 50 technical people in our company. We also have 3 gold competencies with Microsoft. So most of those are basically in the Microsoft cloud. We have the mid-market gold competency with Microsoft. We also have the Microsoft platforms, which is their platform as a service with Azure and SQL as a service and all those products. We also have a gold competency with Office 365, which is, as you guys probably have heard that term, it's almost inevitable where email is moving towards and all that. So we have those 3 gold competencies. We were also the Microsoft Southeast Partner of the Year last year. So what that means is the southern 7 states, not the southeast of Florida. So we're pretty strong in the Microsoft space as a managed service provider. We're also an Inc. 500 company. We kind of went through this big growth spurt where we went from like 10 people to 60 people like almost overnight. A lot of that, when I say overnight, it was probably over about 4 years. We just did a lot of different things. We were very creative in how we do our managed IT services. We did a couple of acquisitions, but most of that growth was organic, not through the acquisitions. We did about 2 acquisitions. So where do we focus? So we focus in providing enterprise-level IT to the small and mid-sized market, right? So we don't really work in the enterprise space. We may have a handful of clients in the large and enterprise space. Most of our clients live in the small to mid-sized market. We're going to talk about what we mean by the small and mid-sized market a little bit later. So we also provide security and compliance layered on top of managed IT, right? So we provide the managed IT services like the support and all that to the company, but we also layer on top of that security and compliance. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about that. Understanding your business, not just your technology, is something that we say. We're a local company. We come in. We're a local company with national reach, but we come in, sit down with the client, talk about their business way before we talk about anything else. So we really try to understand the business. We cross-pollinate hundreds of companies and try to understand the business and leverage the right technology for their business. Leveraging Office 365 and other cloud providers and which we'll talk about, and we've had a lot of growth. So I'll go to the next slide. Okay. So what is managed IT at WheelHouse IT, right? So every company has, like, a lot of these, you might have a telecom company, a data center company, different companies have managed IT in their stack, right? So what does managed IT mean for us, right? Unlimited remote and on-site support. What does that mean? It means that when we sign up a client, they get our help desk, we come out to their office under an SLA, right? Our SLA is 2 hours, so person calls in, we'll get their worst case scenario is 2 hours, but our average response time is about 15 minutes, right? So that's basically the support they'll get when they sign up with WheelHouse IT. But everything is under a flat fee. We don't nickel and dime. We have different plans for different sections of their IT, but for the most part, for the most part, we don't nickel and dime on the services. So monitoring and protection. So what does that mean? We monitor all their internet connections, their backup internet connection, right? We monitor their firewalls. We monitor their servers. We monitor their switches, their wireless access points. So when that equipment goes down, we know about it before they know about it, so we can call them up and let them know we know about this is down. We let them know. We come out to their offices, get all that stuff fixed. We're also patching all their computers. We're patching their computers, their servers, their firewalls, their access points. We even patch their third-party software. So we're doing all that stuff for them. We're also providing all the antivirus, right? All anti-spyware. Anti-malware on their network. So we don't tell them, hey, you need to buy this antivirus or this antivirus. We provide that bundled into the services. So that's in terms of monitoring protection. Disaster recovery, again, so the way that we provide our managed IT services is we provide the disaster recovery automatically bundled in to the client, right? So we don't tell the client, hey, you really need disaster recovery. We basically walk in and we give them the disaster recovery. And we do that by providing a standby server to their server environment, and their data is no more than 15 minutes old, and if for whatever reason one of their servers goes down, we can fail over to the disaster recovery. It's kind of like a spare tire to their network or to their server room. It also does another redundant connection to the cloud, so we can also fail them over to the cloud. Of course, as you guys know, Hurricane Irma in 2017, we had to fail over a bunch of clients to the cloud that didn't have power. So that's bundled into the managed services offering. The managed services also comes with a whole slew of products when it comes to data security and compliance, right? So we've taken because of, like 365 Data Center talked about, with everything that's happening, how adverse the security climate is, we've been sending our engineers out to training in terms of security and in terms of compliance, because these are two things that are heavily affecting, our clients and your clients. Businesses, all around, like GDPR, if they're doing business with the European Union, they're governed by that type of compliance. Healthcare, they're governed by HIPAA compliance, so we have certified HIPAA professionals that are on staff that go out to talk about their HIPAA guidelines and how to function in terms of HIPAA. HIPAA is, of course, healthcare. So we give all that bundled into the managed services. Cloud services, so what does that mean? We're not a data center, but we work with the cloud providers. So we work with the 365 data centers. We work with the Azures and the Amazon. But the way that we do that is we could take the applications that they use locally, put them out in the cloud, and use technologies such as Remote App and Citrix to publish those apps that used to be on their server, but down to the users, and the users can't even tell that they're working off the cloud. Office 365, like I said, Microsoft Southeast Partner of the Year. We've been doing Office 365 before it was even called Office 365. About 6 or 7 years ago, it was called Business Productivity Office Suite. So we're early pioneers of that, early pioneers of also Azure. Vendor management. So what does that mean? So when people call into us and say they have an internet problem, right? We don't say, well, call Comcast or AT&T Fiber, whatever vendor, call your software company, because we're not your software company. So we take full accountability of the issue, right? They call our team. We call the internet service provider. We call the software company. We take full accountability. They can call the software company if they want to. Of course, they have their own relationship. But we own the ticket. They get copies of the ticket and what's happening, so they see what's happening. They see if it's a third-party issue, like by one of their vendors. This is something that we just implemented last year, is training. So we work with a company that developed, an educational company that develops these videos, right? So how does that work? So we set up a portal for the client, right? And in that portal, it's branded as the client. So if the client is, say, ABC company, they log in, they see ABC company, right? And they have little videos between 3 to 15 minutes of how to do something in Excel. It's basically everything from like their desktop, so Windows 7 to Windows 10, everything in terms of their Microsoft Office, all the way from Office 2013 to now 2019. Everything in terms of Office 365, so they can learn how to do Teams or SharePoint or OneDrive, Power BI. and also security as well. So they can learn how to protect themselves against phishing attacks and spear phishing attacks, whale phishing attacks, any types of other types of security to kind of keep their users, safe. And the way that the portal works is we publish it out to them, and we set a point of contact in the company itself, and we're also set up as an account manager there, so they can see which users are actually watching the videos. They can see which users are even taking tests to verify that they know the data in the videos, right? And this is something that's invaluable to the company because Office 365 is just moving at a mile a minute, right? And we say it's like the human brain, like people only use like 2% of it. And now they have the confidence to actually use those products, right? So they're making their employees efficient. So we're there to give them that support and that IT support and the monitoring and everything else. And of course, we can help a user with an Excel problem, but we can also say, listen, I think you'd very much benefit from this video, right? Or this Excel video on how to, I don't know, make a pivot table in Excel or something like that, right? So again, the training has been very powerful. We also have a relationship with the Microsoft stores now, where we've formulated a relationship with them. It's just a pilot program with us that we basically can send people from the Microsoft stores to come on site and actually do the training themselves as well. And we are also a part of that. Of course, Dan is here. He's also, he oversees onboarding. He comes in and does the training as well. So I want to talk a little bit about this word, managed services, and Deloitte calls it IT as a service, but I want to talk about what that industry is, right? So we can understand the sheer volume of it. So Deloitte predicts that IT as a service will become a $500 billion industry, right? So I think it's this. I think they said 2019. So I know it's hard to wrap our minds around that number. So I'm going to get back to that number in a second. But let's first talk about what managed services is, or IT as a service is, right? And telecom people, right away, I know you guys see VoIP in there, and I know a lot of people here aren't even telecom people, are in IT themselves. So let's talk about what IT as a service is, right? So IT as a service, of course, the cloud. Cloud is IT as a service. That's modern workplace, right? So what is modern workplace? Being able to work in real time, or you're working in documents in real time and communicating over Teams or Slack or all that, all these really amazing applications and, unified communication, all that stuff is part of that modern workplace. Infrastructure as a service, right? So just like 365 data centers, people don't have to go and buy their equipment anymore. They don't have to buy their servers. They can use infrastructure as a service, for example, Azure, and they're just paying by the year or by the month or by the hour, right? So that's how they're paying for that infrastructure now. They're not buying the equipment anymore. And they're going through service providers. VoIP, right? Probably don't have to talk about VoIP. You guys all know VoIP is part of that IT as a service. Cybersecurity and compliance. So one thing that 365 data centers, I'm sure they know this statistic, but they didn't mention. I just want to say this: there's 100,000 missing IT security jobs, right? So how are businesses going to protect themselves if they're not even on the market to even be hired, right? So they're going to go to service providers a lot of the time. They're going to hire their security people, but they're going to go to providers to bring in those people, right? We come into play on that. In terms of the cybersecurity and compliance. Hardware as a service, again, people aren't buying desktops anymore. They can just pay for the desktop by the month. User leaves, desktop goes away. They have to ramp up. They pay X amount of dollars per month. They get more desktops. So hardware as a service as well. Help desk and infrastructure support. That's like the help desk, the infrastructure support, the management, and training. As what we just talked about. Next slide. Okay, so Dan, I did this for you. So TCG, right? So we talked about managed services being a $500 billion industry. So that you see that little orange over there, right? So that little orange represents 1% of that industry. If TCG grabs 1% of that industry, guess what? TCG just captured $5 billion, right? So to even bring this down a little closer to you guys, is if the TCG agent grabs 1% of the TCG piece of that pie, of their 1%, so if they grab 1% of their 1%, that's $50 million. Sorry, I had to look at that. That's $50 million. So just to give you guys an understanding of how massive this industry is and what's happening, how it's evolving, how IT as a service is kind of swallowing everything up, including VoIP and Telecom. We'll talk about that. So For example, I remember, I've been here for 20 years. I was an agent I've been working with David, with Lou, with Dan. From STS to BroadSmart, actually we were the managed service provider for BroadSmart, and I remember selling these solutions where we would sell telecom and VoIP to clients, and we'd walk into a 25-person office and walk out with like a $2,000 a month bill. And as you guys know, that's kind of shrinking a little bit, but with managed services, that's actually growing, right? So with managed services, that same business you're billing out at $5,000 per month, right? I'm talking about like a 40 user environment could be billing out, a 30 user environment once you include the cloud and everything else. So the numbers are just much bigger numbers, and those numbers keep on growing because they're now subscribing to the cloud and infrastructure as a service and hardware as a service, and it used to be where their mobile phones weren't part of IT. Now they are, right? And I'm going to talk about that right now. So a client that we made a build in 2008 at $1,000 a month, we can bill them at $4,000 a month now, right? So why did that just happen? Because now they need compliance and they need training and they need security, right? And like I said, their phones now need to be part of the network, right? So these are just some things that are happening. This kind of shows how it's affecting our business, right? But it's affecting you guys too. So we're talking a little bit more about the commissions, right? So your commissions grows with the client, right? So how does that work, right? So the client continues to subscribe for more services, IT continues to grow, the commissions continue to grow, right? Just like VoIP and telecom and everything else you're doing, right? But with IT is just going to grow around more of the business over time. So as that happens, the commissions are obviously going to grow. Another part is it's a service. It's not like utility like telecom. So it's matched to our consumer price index, right? So as the consumer price index goes up, inflation goes up. So does the service fees, and that's in their contract. I also want to talk about the retention of the client, right? So we've been doing this for a long time, but we've been doing it as managed services. We were calling it more like flat fee IT in 2002. Of our first 5 clients, we still have 3 of them, and that's something that we say during the sales process. What does that mean? It means that the service is very sticky with the clients, right? You're building a partnership with them, right? You're becoming a part of their business. You're learning their business. It's a lot different than, well, I get internet from this person one day, I get internet from that person one day. Internet's internet, right? And our business is a commodity just like theirs, but it's more personal, right? And that personal relationship with the client creates that stickiness with the client. So it's a good investment move to sell managed services or to sell it with us. It's also a more strategic relationship, right? So if you're coming in selling managed IT services, you're still part of that account. You can come with us to our strategic business reviews that we do with the clients. That's perfectly fine as a TCG agent. One of the things we talked to Dan about. So it's not like you guys are selling them a product and hoping in 3 years from now, right, they'll be able to renew. Now you guys have more of a strategic relationship. You're bringing in a product into their business that's really transforming their business, transforming how they work, their support, and just their entire relationship with IT in terms of their users and everything that they're doing. Another thing that we've been working on with TCG is this telecom protection. So as a managed service provider, we have what's called client success managers, right? And the client success managers know what VoIP solution, what internet solution they have, what backup internet solution they have, and whatever product it is. They know when those contracts are expiring. So we've actually been dialed into TCG for all that, right? So the way that we're going to work in the relationship, because remember, we're also an agent and we're also a carrier, right? So we kind of understand both sides of it. So the way that we're going to be working with the agents, if you guys are say telecom agents, right? So if for whatever reason you're not capturing that second internet connection or whatever it is, or you might not be capturing anything in terms of telecom with the client or VoIP, then as it goes into our CRM, and this is something that Rory's been working heavily on, is as it goes into a CRM, the parent company of that account is going to be TCG. So the client success manager can't sell the account unless there's a conversation with the agent themselves. So it gives you guys protection, right? So you guys can actually sell it together and it'll actually be able to capture maybe some items that you might not be selling to the client, all right? I'm going to talk a little bit about our target market. So we have clients across the board, right? We have everything from healthcare to manufacturing to construction to legal services, financial services. We're a managed service provider. We probably the most amount of the biggest industry we have is healthcare, so that's definitely a plus for us. Plus, with all our compliance and all that stuff, healthcare seems to be the ones that match our company a little bit better than other industries, but it goes across every single industry. In terms of the size, 95% of our clients make up between 5 and 500 users. We're not going to say no to a 10-user environment or a 5-user environment, but we do have clients that are 5 and 10 users, and we also have clients that even go above 1,000 users, and we have clients that the billing could be over $1 million a year too, right? But our sweet spot is 15 to 150. What does that mean? It means that the sales cycle is short in those accounts, right? A 500-user environment could be a 1-year sales cycle, right? So for you guys, you might be able to tee up a deal and you might have to wait a year till that closes because there's a lot that goes on during the sales process in a 500 or 1,000-user environment. But on the smaller environments, they're quick. A lot of times they have a single computer guy, right? That takes 3 days to get there, and their users, like their IT is like oxygen, right? They can't wait for these people. So in those types of scenarios, those scenarios, the sales cycle could be a lot quicker. They could also have another managed service provider there, right? So that sales cycle might be a little bit slower. But that's typically our sweet spot. One thing we will say is we do basically everything except restaurant and retail. Restaurant and retail hasn't worked well for us in the past. We've done it, just hasn't worked well for us in the past. So that's the one industry we say no to. Do you have a question?
Yes. So, Donnie, like if you're in a situation where like a business keeps turning over their IT staff on a regular basis, I mean, how would you like talk to that?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. So we have a slide here that talks about the co-managed IT, but I'll talk about it briefly. So basically, if they have internal IT, which makes up about 30 to 40% of our clients have internal IT, so we have a hybrid product where we provide, so let's say they have a desktop person, but that desktop person isn't doing monitoring, or they're certainly not doing compliance, they're not doing security, they're not doing disaster recovery. So we provide all those services, so they just choose a lesser plan and it's less per month. And to be honest, those types of plans are usually the best for the client, because say it's a 100-user environment, they have somebody there that's kind of running around and knows their business more intimately, and we're just running everything in the background. So it works. Those plans work really well. So if they have internal IT, it's a great question. That doesn't mean we're going to send them away. That's great. We love when they have internal IT. We work very harmoniously with them. We open up our systems, very transparent systems where they can see all their configurations. They have access to the single sign-on pass portal system, so they can see passwords. We provide the structure for the internal IT, the ticketing system, the monitoring tools. We even open them up to our training tools. We have a whole WheelHouse University that our employees go to. We actually open that up to the internal IT in the company. We feel that those hybrid environments are probably the best solution for the client because we're getting the best of both worlds. So one thing I want to mention, because even though we're just getting started, there has been some agents that have been coming to us about clients all over the country, right? So we're going to be focusing on South Florida, New York. My business partner actually works out of our New York office. And the reason we're doing that is because I work out of the South Florida office, my business partner works out of the New York office. We want to be very careful with the relationship with TCG and making sure that everything goes well and puts everything in a vacuum. That doesn't mean we don't want clients outside of Florida, New York. We do want clients outside of Florida, New York, and we do have clients all over the country. But in those, we want to make sure that the clients that we sign up are going to be taken care of in a personal way by myself and Rory down here, and by our key people up in New York, making sure that everything goes well. And I apologize for those, because we've been getting calls from TCG agents saying like, oh, this is great, this is exactly what we need, we want to start selling the services, and we want to make sure that we focus here first, but that's exactly what we want, is to grow it with TCG on a national basis. We are a national company, but we're trying to grow it with TCG on a national basis. So we're going to focus on South Florida and New York for right now. The co-managed IT. And so the way the co-managed IT works is, like I said, we have we create this product where the internal IT is able to use our systems as a software as a service. So they're using our monitoring tools, the way that they connect into the workstations. We train them on all the software. We train them on the ticketing system. We train them on change management. We train them on the different products that they use, right? And they're able to run their IT departments more efficiently. We have some clients that'll have 10 people in their IT department, but they're on this co-managed IT product. And it just injects all this structure and all this best practices into what they do, and they can see a tremendous amount of efficiencies in their IT departments just by us providing the tools, and then they have us in the background as a lifeline in case something happens, right? In case, IT unemployment's, less than 1.9% now, right? It's crazy. It's one of the most insane unemployments right now that are going on. So people leave, right? And when they leave, like, how do you train them, and how does that whole thing happen? So with this co-managed IT product, it provides that layer to support the in-house IT people, but also giving the best of both worlds. So it's a growing product that we have. Okay, that's it. Does anybody have any questions for me? Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question on the cybersecurity side.
Sure.
If you have a financial firm like a wealth management, some broker dealers, do you provide compliance reports?
Yeah, so the way we'll typically do that is we'll do a risk assessment at first, right? So let's say they're looking for a new managed service provider, right? So we'll go in, we'll do a risk assessment, we'll bring in a certified security and compliance specialist, which is one of our full-time employees, and then they'll take a look at the vulnerability assessment and the risk assessment that was done, and they'll work through that vulnerability assessment to match it up based on the regulations that they're in. So, wealth management, they'll look at the wealth management, the wealth management regulations to making sure everything is compliant, and then also looking at security. Even though compliance and security are similar, they're different. Matching the security and the why. Okay, why do we have to do this, and why do we have to do this, and really explaining to them how to get through that process. Any other questions? Sure.
How do you guys do your pricing, and I guess do you get down as far as doing like break fix and?
Oh, we don't do break fix.
And so it's completely managed or nothing?
Yeah. So the way that we do it is they have to choose one of our plans. Right? So we might have a plan where we're just monitoring and doing the disaster recovery and doing the security, and we give them the firewall. We give them the firewall and all those, that software for the firewall and everything else. They might choose that plan. And then what they can do is they could have internal IT, or they could have a break fix person if they continue doing the break fix, because they might have a good relationship with that break fix person. Another part is we also have plans that work in conjunction with the independent IT person. So if they have like a single IT person or a small IT shop, we have plans in place to work with them. So we're providing all that back office stuff. But we can't do like an hourly thing or like hourly engagements. All our clients are partners, right? So we come in, we do a full onboarding. The help desk people are on like a first name basis with everyone. They get a pod that they work with. They have a lead engineer on their pod that knows all the architecture around their business. It's really about getting our arms around the client and really providing them the best service. And we're just not big believers in just the break fix and, oh, well, this is broken, let me just fix this. We don't believe in that methodology. We haven't for about 15 years now. We're one of the first companies to completely drop break fix as a. I'm sorry? No, we're not an internet provider. No, we work with TCG for that.
But you pull in all the contracts and everything else, and you'll manage the telecom as far as the AT&T circuit goes down, you're going to call in and open that ticket.
Yeah, right. So we'll manage that, and then if it's a TCG agent that's a telecom agent, what we'll do is we'll strategize with the TCG agent on what they have and what they don't have yet and what we can sell to them together. But we'll do all the vendor management for their internet and all that stuff. But if, like I said, if it's TCG agent, we can work on the relationship. And remember, we're not small. We're the largest in terms of South Florida, but we're definitely not a big company. Like the companies that came before us are a lot bigger than we are, right? We're 50, 60 person companies. So we can work with if it's a telecom agent, we can work with them on how they want to design that relationship, making sure we don't step on any toes, and that's really important because we've seen that because we're a TCG agent, so we understand that very, very well. Yeah, the way we deliver the service is a very personalized service, right? So we have a customer satisfaction score, for example, where we have a very high return rate on that because we almost force them to rate every single ticket from a frown, a meh face, and a smiley face. The moment we see the first frown face, manager gives that person a call. When we implemented the system a couple years ago, we went from like an 88%. I think we're up to what are we up to now? Right now, Roy? Yeah, like a 97% like smiley face rate, right? So it really drives our company, and we have like some videos that we had a production company come in and kind of talk to our clients, and film crew kind of went around talking to how the service is delivered, shows how the technicians work and all that stuff. We actually wanted to show it today, but we don't know, just make you guys watch a video, but we want to definitely send that out to you guys. Go ahead. When you say team with you on the Telecom? Yeah, so we're developing that with TCG. So the way that's going to work is there's going to be a split of that unless there's a specific reason not to. So if there's things that you guys haven't captured or isn't in the pipeline for you to capture and you want us to capture it, then we're going to require probably a small spiff just to make sure that the account managers are conscious of it. So when it comes up, it's kind of like think of them as your agents, right? So the account managers can say, okay, I'll make sure that this gets sold for you. So they need a little bit of a spiff on their end, but it will be like a spiff share. Or if you want, you can just say don't ever sell them Telecom. And then if you say don't ever sell them Telecom, then we don't do it. But it's as a partnership, right? Because I'm sure if you sell Telecom, you've lost deals to a managed service provider, right? So when it's both of us kind of beating the same drum, you're gonna make more sales.
But just to phrase that though, like if it's your customer, Pam, and you're bringing them into your customer, and you've sold them all the Telecom, they will not touch your Telecom part. Period.
Yeah, unless you want us to. It's all up to you.
So you could monitor it, but then just bring it.
Yeah, the CRM system won't allow them to.
Okay, but then you could bring it to our attention.
Yeah, we can bring it to your attention.
See something that looks awry.
Right. It's how you want to design the relationship. So what I would highly recommend is come to our headquarters in Fort Lauderdale. We can sit down and even before your first account, actually that's probably the most important time is to sit down before you sell your first account to really understand what to expect and make sure that we're on the same page. Go ahead.
The goal at the end of the day is to be your partner. You don't want to work against you, you want to work for you. If you guys are making money from it, that's how we kind of look at it.
You talk a little, your pricing model, is it per server, per?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't answer that question. Yeah, that was one of the questions. So yeah, I mean, what carries the most weight is the user, right? So the way that works is company has 50 users. I can't really talk about like pricing. We have different plans. It's kind of abstract. If you ever come by our office, we can kind of go through it with you more in detail. But the users are kind of what we say, like it's like the longest pole in the tent. So it carries the most weight on the agreement. But you might have accounts where they might have 3 computers to each user, or they might have something different. They might have too many servers in their environment or stuff like that. So that might create an increase, but for the most part, it's like a user, and a user is someone that uses a computer.
Our average ticket for monthly recurring is just over around $1,000 a month mark, to kind of give you an average. We have some that are over $20,000, $30,000 a month. So.
Yeah, like we don't say no to the 10-user environments. 10-user environments typically will pay about $1,000 a month. So that would be the low end, right? Is what you mentioned. So, but we do have some accounts that tend to go below the $1,000 a month. But remember, they're getting their firewall, they're getting their antivirus, they're getting their disaster recovery, they're getting their training, they're getting their Office 365 is built into that. The software itself, they're getting they're basically like getting their entire network, right? So. There's certain things that they have to buy, but for the most part, like everything is bundled into a monthly fee for them. Sure.
The service level agreement, what is the headquarters here in Florida?
In Fort Lauderdale, we're in the Marina Mall Business Park.
What happens if you have a customer, let's say, Key West?
Key West is a interesting Interesting one. We have had inquiries in the Keys, but for whatever reason, I've been down here for 20 years. I've never had a client in the Keys. But I guess you could say we'll go down to, what is that called down there? Martin? Is that? No, what's the county called? It's called Monroe County. Like, we'll go down to Monroe County. It's very rare. It's a very small population center, right? But we'll go up as far as Port St. Lucie down here. But our reach can go national, but our physical offices and just we own our offices that we're at, right? So we're really growing roots in the communities that we're at. So most of our clients are in our backyard. Our backyard is like 80 miles from our physical office, right? Because it's easy for the person from the physical office to go out there. However, one of our biggest clients is not even in any of those, right? So we have a bunch of clients that are not in any of those areas that we have a physical office in. But with the TCG relationship, we're trying to like laser focus in South Florida and New York for at least this year. If there is a really good opportunity and you guys don't want to lose it and you want to talk to us about it and it's outside of those geos, we're open to talking about it and we're open to selling it. In the headquarters, like 40, 45, something like that, Rory? We Yeah. Well, not which location they're at, but yeah. But yeah, come by our office. I missed the question before, sorry. Sure.
In your industry, does price have become like they ever compare you price-wise to another? You go in with a quote, they're like, well, I can get that for, 10% less than ABC.
Yeah. So the way, from what we know, the way that we sell it, the way that we do it, how we do it, and we really explain the how and the why and all that, we're not seeing anyone selling it like we are. We feel we're like kind of like maybe a generation ahead of what people are doing down here. So, but at the same time, we're still competitive. We're still not the most expensive one, which is mind-boggling to me. We go against MSPs down here all the time, and they're more expensive than us, and it's like this like old 2 generations behind of what they're providing. They're not providing training, and they're not providing the firewalls of service, the disaster recovery. They're not providing like the strategic business reviews on a regular. They're not providing Office 365. They're just providing like IT support. And in fact, 99% of the environments that we walk into, they're just providing like support where we're providing more of the arms around the business and really trying to make the business successful and looking at IT as an investment, not an expense, to transform the business. And that approach, from what we've seen, is somewhat unique. I'm sure it's not unique on a national basis, but down here in New York, it's starting to happen more. Like we're starting to go into New York accounts, and they seem to be progressing a little bit further than South Florida is. But down here, it definitely seems to be behind. So there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of low-hanging fruit to cultivate. Yeah. Yeah, our average contract is usually it's a 3-year contract, but we can go down to 1 year with pricing increases. But our contracts aren't like locking in the client. We make it pretty simple to get out of our contracts. And we can get into more of those details when you guys come by our office. But we don't set up the contracts where they're like locked in. But it doesn't matter because our average client stays like 9 years or something, I think is our average. But we do have to have a contract with every client. Like we won't sign them up without a contract. For legal reasons and just to put in the commitment, because we have to put in so much time in the first 3 to 6 months that we don't make any money. I mean, we're going in, ask Dan, he oversees our onboarding. Like we go in, we talk to every single user, we interview every user on what they're doing, we look at their business, we have this methodology of stabilize, support, manage, transform. So we're stabilizing their environment by putting in the right security and the right, and all that, and then we start supporting their internal IT and their users, and then we start managing the environment. So they've taken the accountability on us, and we own we take ownership of all the issues, and then we start transforming the business. So by the time we reach that transformation stage, like they better stay with us, a couple of years for us to make money.